NCAA. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order our Streets and Service hearing. We do have a quorum. To my left, Councilman Green Lee, and to my right, Councilman O. Mr. McMonagle, would you please call the title of the first bill?
Resolution number 190114, a resolution authorizing the Committee on Streets and Services to hold hearings regarding the City of Philadelphia's commitment to its recycling program.
Good morning, Commissioner and team.
Good morning. How you doing, Chairman? Thank you.
Just you could just state your name for the record and then begin with your testimony. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairman Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Carlton Williams, Streets Commissioner. Here with me today is Kyle Lewis, the city's new recycling director, and Scott McGrath, our environmental planner for the Department of Streets. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on resolution number 190114, which authorizes hearings regarding the status of the city's recycling program. Please know that the Streets Department shares your concerns, and we have been working diligently to address the challenges presented by the global recycling market while negotiating a best value contract for the City of Philadelphia's curbside material. It is our goal to process 100% of the recycled material we collect curbside at a material recovery facility. We anticipate sending ordinance to City Council approval for recycling for contract terms and conditions by this spring. I would like to take a moment to briefly explain the global recycling crisis and the actions we are taking to address the challenges while maintaining our commitment to recycling in the City of Philadelphia. As you may know, the market for recycled materials began to dramatically change in October of 2017 when the city was paying $4 a ton to have its curbside material processed and marketed. By January 2018, this rate had increased to $23 per ton, and during the summer of 2018, the rate increased to over $40 per ton. In September 2018, as the city's recycling contract expired, an interim rate of $170 per ton was offered while the city issued an RFP and negotiated a new contract. The primary reason for the market change has been China reducing their contamination standards to 0.5%, a standard that no processing facility in the United States is able to meet. The cost of recycling has had a major impact on the city's budget, as the rates per ton have significantly increased beyond the cost of trash collection. In November, the Department of Streets was forced to consider alternative options at the expiration of the previous contract, as the contract extension terms were too costly for the city to absorb. The cost of the proposed contract extension were nearly 3 times the cost of the disposal. This would have cost the city millions of dollars in unplanned expenses. The department decided to divert 50% of its recyclable material processed at Waste Management Recycling Facility and the balance process commanded at their 2 waste-to-energy plants located in Chester and Plymouth Township. Please note that this is a temporary arrangement, and the department has discussed this temporary arrangement with the Department of Environmental Protection of Pennsylvania. As stated earlier, we fully intend to have a new contract that processes 100% of our recyclable material by this spring. The challenges that we are facing are not unique to the City of Philadelphia and are highlighted in a report published by the National League of Cities entitled Rethinking Recycling: How Cities Can Adapt to Evolving Markets. I respectfully request that each of you take a moment to review this report, as you will find the city's current strategy is consistent with the other municipalities facing similar challenges with their recycling programs across the country. The Streets Department is committed to improving recycling and taking steps to improve our collection processes. Mayor Kinney created the Zero Waste and Litter Cabinet to develop strategies to reduce waste and promote a cleaner city. The Streets Department is working closely with the Cabinet to develop best practices for reducing contamination in our recycling stream. The Streets Department is also developing education and outreach programs to encourage residents to recycle correctly. Eliminating plastic bags, soiled pizza boxes, and other unacceptable materials in the recycling bin helps reduce the rate of contamination, which reduces costs. These small steps will drastically improve the state of recycling during this difficult period and in the future. As we move forward, your offices and staffers can be of great assistance by helping us get the message out of the importance of keeping recycling clean of plastic bags and other contaminants that reduce the level of contamination, to increase the value of materials collected and reduce processing costs. Thank you for your concern to improve recycling in the City of Philadelphia. The department appreciates your support and will keep City Council updated on the RFP process. We will also keep Council informed of any future changes in the recycling program. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as you hear, there's a lot of concern, of what's happening with recycled materials. And, as times change, we have to be able to change and adjust. We are going to be introducing a plastic bag bill sometime in the future, so that should be helpful, hopefully. That's just one part of it, but I think the education that you mentioned is so important. And we still have people that throw soiled pizza boxes and other things in the recycling, which is a challenge. And I know not everybody wants to rip the lid off and recycle that and then throw the bottom out, but that's what we could do as a public, and to get them to know. The other issue is wet materials, papers, cardboard. And, the way our recycling is, a lot of people keep it outside, and so by the time the end of the week comes, a lot of it is, dirty recycling. What would be done, and I know we tried a lid thing, what could be done, since we have a single stream waste recycling, to protect our recycling when it's being stored?
I think you mentioned it earlier, and we're investing in it. Lids work. I think the problem is that it's difficult to keep the lid on that type of container, and so we're developing an attachment that will make sure it stays secure. But the key to keeping dry, clean material is to make sure that when you set it out curbside, it has lids on it. It also reduces litter from the bin actually blowing off from windy conditions. So I think our investment in lids are going to continue. This year, we're going to make sure with every bin that we distribute has a lid, and for people who already have existing bins, they can come get a lid from one of our sanitation convenience centers. And
it's tough for sanitation too. When they're out there, they're doing hundreds of thousands of recycled bins at a time. Some of those lids end up in the truck. So it's challenging. I know if we could come up with something, and we know, some people thought maybe if you could bag it in a way, but, when you bag it, it's hard to then put the single stream in, to rip the bag open, to put them in. So I wish there was an easy answer, but hopefully working together, we could come up with ways to make our stream cleaner, and therefore then more valuable, because as we see, less people are buying dirty recycling.
Absolutely. Yes, and we look forward to working with you. We think we have a very simple solution to the lids being tossed around and thrown around and stay connected with the bin. And so we're working on that with the manufacturer that presents our bins. It's as simple as drilling a hole in the top of the lid and creating an attachment where they can tie it on to the bin, and that way it stays with the bin currently, and they don't have to worry about it blowing over or people throwing it away or it getting damaged. So those are some of the simplest, small things that's going to have big rewards.
I'm one of the guys who likes trying things. You try it. If it don't work, you try something else, right? So
That's
let's
correct.
keep trying. The lids are something that's new, and we know because we get complaints sanitation day. the streets are dirtier that day for a reason, whether some bags break or whether the recycling gets blown around, especially on the windy days. So the lids will help in two ways. One is keep the recycling clean and also keep the litter off the streets. So thank you. Councilman Green?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, Councilman.
Thank you for being here. Just wanted to ask some questions and also follow up on some things you raised in your testimony and just give you some context. Part of what has gotten me very focused on recycling, I had opportunity to view a documentary that we viewed and presented in City Council last year, as well as at the Free Library, called Plastic China. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It really opened my eyes in a major way regarding recycling, and at one point how Chinese government was really looking at recycling as an opportunity to create jobs and create small businesses for many of their constituents who are primarily farmers, and they looked at this as an opportunity to create an industry and economy. And so for the most part, they were taking recycled material from everywhere. But then I think post the documentary, and the documentary has since been banned from China, they realized how type of impact this was having on many people and also the ecology of the country and just how people are basically living in plastic. And so I think that was part of the motivation of them moving to such a smaller percentage of contaminated material, which has had a major impact not only in the city of Philadelphia, but across the country. You made reference to the National League of Cities report. This is one of the things that was addressed last week when I was attending the National League of Cities conference in D.C. One of the areas I want to first focus on is education. I know I've done some PSAs regarding recycling. I think many people think that you just take your plastic and just put in a container. Since seeing the Plastic China documentary, I'm very diligent in reference to recycling, to the point that even my son, like this morning, he had chocolate milk and he rinses out the container, puts it on a back ledge, lets it dry, and then we put it in the container. And even recycling containers, many people have the containers without the lid, and if you have that in your backyard, that gets wet if it rains, and that contaminates the entire inside, and that really just becomes expensive trash. So how do we, and what are you suggesting, and maybe even from a resource perspective as we go into this budget season, ways to educate constituents on how to better deal with recycling? Because this is a budget issue. We'll continue to pay a lot of expenses for this expensive trash. Unfortunately, that may end up in landfills or to the temporary arrangement you have with Waste Management in Covanta. But part of the ability to address recycling, not just in the city of Philadelphia, but also other cities, is really changing the behavior of people and doing things like when you put your pizza box in your recycling container, you get to take out the liner. And if the top of the carton is also soiled from oil or grease, you take that off. And when you put things like, I eat yogurt in the morning, so when you put your yogurt container in plastic, you need to rinse it out and wipe it out in all the containers. Unfortunately, here in the City Hall, I don't think we have a good recycling process here in City Hall. I actually have a recycling container in my office that I clean out and recycle things, and then when that gets full, I take it back to my house and put it on the curb because we don't do what we should be doing in this building regarding recycling. So I want to just ask this question: what are your plans, and do you anticipate trying to identify any resources in the budget to try to better educate citizens about recycling? Sure.
Thank you for your comments, Councilman. And I certainly share your concerns, and it starts at home. It sounds like you and your son, you've done well teaching them the importance of contamination, because that's actually where it starts and begins. I'm going to turn it over to our Director for Recycling, Kyle, to talk about our campaign that we'll be launching this spring in relationship to recycling. But I just want to echo some of the comments that you made earlier. It does start as simple as placing and teaching people at home how to recycle. Before, we were so bent on making sure that people just recycled in the city of Philadelphia. As you can remember, maybe over a decade ago, we were one of the worst recycling cities in America, when people stated that people weren't recycling at all, and we were sending trucks down streets with no bins out. We've now passed that point where people are now in the habit of recycling, but I think we missed one key point in this China incident has taught us a valuable lesson, is that we need to teach people how to recycle correctly, and that is the next step that we're working on. Not placing pizza boxes out, as you stated, with soil, so many times with oil in it. So many times I ride up and down streets and I see, what people put into the container. I see plastic bags and they think, well, we're doing the city a favor because we don't want it sprawled all over the place, but it actually causes more challenges at the processing center.
I've seen it.
We have to do a better job educating and outreach, and that means going door to door, having events. Certainly, we're doing waste audits with the Zero Waste and Litter program in municipal buildings. We started that program, and we can give you an update on an audits where we had 90% compliance of people reporting actually what they recycle. We're going to take that information and then develop an educational program so we can continue to do it and be a leading example here in city government. We're also doing that in the commercial sector as well. We've expanded that audit not just to say, how do you recycle and are you recycling? Do you have a recycling plan? But what type of materials, where do you take them, where are they going, and are you doing it correctly? I think those are the most important steps that we need to continue on. Kyle, I'm going to let you.
And let me just interject. To the extent that we create some type of social media marketing campaign, just like, for example, people, when you spring forward and fall back. Years ago, I'm not sure if it's Commissioner Ayers and others who incorporated the concept of checking your batteries for your fire alarms. And so now it's starting to become part of people's nomenclature in reference to when I spring forward or fall back, I check my fire alarms. So we need, and considering every spring we have the spring cleanup, which has become, from where it started to where it is now, kind of a really big initiative that many people around the city are getting involved in. Maybe there's some type of way we need to tie in some type of marketing campaign, social media campaign. I often tell people you need to make sure recycling is clean, empty, and dry. But something that can start to gather people's perspectives about that, because I think that's what's needed. I mean, unfortunately, in the public sector, we don't have a lot of resources for marketing, but we've got to create some type of initiative to really change, because that has an impact on our budget. And I think people don't realize that we pay tipping fees and other expenses because what people think are recycling is actually just more expensive trash. And if we change people's behavior, that's going to have a financial impact to the city.
Absolutely, we agree. Kyle, you want to update the councilman on the campaign real briefly?
Absolutely. Good morning, Councilman Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Kyle Lewis. I'm the Recycling Program Director. Pardon me. We are planning a robust educational campaign that will cover contamination, matters of contamination. As the Commissioner said in the past, the focus was on getting people to participate in the recycling program, and we're still going to encourage people to participate in recycling. However, we're going to really focus on contamination, and so I'd like to pass you copies of a couple of our campaign thanks. Sorry, I wasn't aware of the process. But they are part of the same campaign, but we will focus, again, a lot on contamination, with the plastic bags being our #1 contaminant, as well as educating people on the fact that materials do need to be clean and dry. As the Commissioner said, we are going to be giving away tops with all of our bins and making sure that the residents are able to get a top at our sanitation convenience centers and in locations around the city. We know that the campaign has to be a grassroots effort, and so there's going to be a lot of community outreach in churches, CDCs, with your offices, and in partnership with a lot of the organizations around the city. Some of the more traditional organizations that are in the environmental services sector, but also some of our corporate entities in the city, as well as our media entities in the city. We're going to try to enroll them in the process and get some social media ads up on, sites like the Visit Philly site and the Bureau site, so that people know that when they come into Philadelphia, they need to recycle. And so we're going to make sure that that campaign is is as far-reaching and wide-reaching as it can be, because everybody who steps into the city of Philadelphia is likely to throw something away. And so we need them to be aware of how that is to be discarded and make sure that they have the tools in place for it to be discarded. One of the places we're also going to start is with our own city employees, because we've realized that not only are they city employees, but they're residents of the city of Philadelphia. And so we have to make sure that they're educated so that they're properly recycling at home and in their work environment as well. And so those are some of the plans for our educational campaign. Again, that's going to be rolled out at the beginning of April, and it will go on for a number of years. There are a lot of messages within that campaign about putting a lid on it, take a minute to bin it, just making sure that people have a clear understanding of the personal responsibility involved in recycling, and that they actually need to take a minute, whether it's take a minute to clean it, take a minute to consider that maybe it's not recycling. We've had a big problem in the past with what we call wish cycling, where people will take a look at something and weigh it and say, well, I don't know if it's recyclable, but they'll put it in the bin. And so one of our messages is going to be, when in doubt, keep it out, because we cannot afford, as you said, Councilman Green, to continue to have contaminants in the stream. It does cost additional dollars. And again, because we've gotten all of this publicity around recycling and the fact that it costs, we want to use that to our advantage as much as possible. And so some of our messaging also involves the cost of recycling, whether it is the monetary cost of recycling or the cost in terms of safety to the workers in the plant. We're going to bring all of those matters to light as well, and engage the community in many ways in order to bring their attention towards clean and proper recycling.
So there's a follow-up to that information you provided regarding your recycling education campaign. How much will be devoted to in the Streets Department budget for recycling education, and is that an increase from prior years based on this new challenge regarding recycling costs?
Thanks, Councilman. Yeah, each year we get our funding from the state Act 101, and Scott McGrath, who manages that contract, it's actually what you stated earlier, part of a tipping fee that goes into a fund in which, based on our amount that we recycle every year, we get a percentage from the state, and it's through a state grant. Normally that grant has ranged anywhere between $1.2 and $1.9 million each year. And a significant portion of that money is used for both recycling and litter prevention. So we use a huge portion of that for this campaign that Kyle stressed earlier, and I can ask Scott to tell you, the numbers on how much we're spending on it, as well as dollars from the city of Philadelphia.
So in addition, so that money you get from Act 101 through the tipping fees, has that increased or has it been about the same over the past couple of years? And are you adding additional funds out of the general fund to increase awareness and education regarding recycling because of this challenge?
It's been about the same over the last couple of years. We've happy to say that we've been getting probably the most of any municipalities. It's probably because we generate the most material, because of Philadelphia being the first-class city and largest, one of the largest cities in the Commonwealth. We do receive a huge portion of those recycling dollars that come into the city of Philadelphia, and those investments are made. We also invest some general fund dollars to match those grant dollars. Again, I'll let Scott McGrath talk a little bit about in detail about how that the city's portion versus the state portion is laid out, is allocated. The majority does come from the Act 101 grant.
Right. I'm just curious, how much of the general fund dollars have historically been in, and is there going to be an increase?
Yeah, good morning, Councilman. My name is Scott McGrath. I'm the department's environmental planner. And yes, we do get a sizable amount of grant funding from the state. It's based on it's called a performance grant, and it's based on the amount of tonnage that we document, both the residential tonnage of material that we collect, and we also document the amount of commercial tonnage from the private haulers that collect recycling within the city. So that, we send those numbers into the state every year, and they have a complicated formula that they use to determine how much money we get back. And it's all funded by a $2 per ton fee on everything that goes to a landfill or a resource recovery facility. And that money goes back to all the municipalities that apply for the performance grant funds. The city actually can only get a maximum of 10% of the fund amount. And fortunately, I think for the last 10 years, we've actually gotten the maximum amount of money that we can get from the fund. So, and then that amount kind of fluctuates a little bit depending on how much money is taken into the fund. And the city's portion. So we spend about $400,000 a year on just educating our residents.
So that's about $400,000 a year from the general fund?
Yeah.
Right, and do you
Yes.
anticipate an increase this year?
No, I think that's been the same allocation that we've asked for the previous years, so there was no increase for our recycling contract for that, Councilman.
You also talked in your testimony, I think on page 3, your testimony, about you anticipate a new contract this spring.
Yes.
Now, as part of this contract, is this going to be a long-term contract? Because I know other cities, like Las Vegas, Anaheim, California, they initiated long-term contracts for recycling.
Yes.
Also, I know you have a municipal waste contract that's coming up as well. Is the plan to have 2 separate contracts or multiple contracts? And will they be more than 1 year?
Yes, so that's a great question. Yes, our traditional contract was a 1 year plus 3 1-year renewal options. As you stated earlier, municipalities and vendors, processing facilities are looking for long-term locked-in deals, some as many as 20 years. This one will be longer than the 1 plus 1 plus 3. Is actually looking at a 5-year with 2 renewable 1-year option years, which is traditionally longer than what we've had in the past.
So you said 5-year contract with 2 1-year renewals?
That's correct. So a total of 7 years combined, but then it's the city's option. We think this is the best scenario for us because the market is so volatile and it changes, and we want to be in a position not to lock the city into a 20-year deal like we were offered, because if the market then changes favorably or new technologies or new innovations come up, we want to be in a position to take advantage of that.
And that'll be a 5-year contract with 2 1-year renewals for recycling. Is that the same for the municipal waste contract?
So we are in the process of negotiating those terms right now, and we haven't locked in the solid waste contracts the way we've done recycling, because we're prepared to submit an ordinance to you with those details as early as next week, and probably.
But will the municipal waste contract also be a multi-year contract?
Yes, that will be a multi-year contract.
Can you give me, I know you're in the process of negotiating, but
Yeah.
can you give me a range?
Sure.
You're talking possibly 3, possibly 7?
Yeah, it's usually a 4-year plus 3 1-year renewable years, so it's a total of 7 as well. And again, the 1-year renewable gives us the option to opt out. New technologies come up. If there's an opportunity for us to change behavior and switch to something else that's more beneficial to the city, we are not locked into it.
And there'll be one vendor for the solid waste contract and one vendor for recycling?
Normally, there's multiple vendors for the solid waste contract. This current contract, we have 2 vendors. We love the fact that there's multiple vendors because it gives us different options to take it in locations, because it keeps our costs down, and also we're able to, use it as competition to keep costs down for our dollars.
What about for recycling? Would it be?
There's only one vendor awarded for that. We did certainly look at the opportunity to bring in multiple vendors, but unfortunately, the proposals that received just didn't warrant it.
Okay. I have some additional questions. Some I'll reserve for our budget hearings, and/or I may just submit them to you in advance in writing. There's some questions I have regarding recycling, and I'll defer back to the chair.
Thank you. One last question. As far as the education, are we looking to go into the district schools and the other schools too for education, start at a lower grade level and get them to get their parents to do it?
Yes. Yes, we are. I actually just met with the district yesterday in order to create a plan for next year. We're working in partnership with some of our existing partners, those being Keep Philadelphia Beautiful and Mural Arts, who also have programming within the schools, so that they are conveying the same messages around recycling that we are. But yes, we plan on infiltrating the school district with information about recycling because, as you said, Chairman Squilla, that kids go home and they educate their parents around recycling and, make their parents a little bit more conscientious about what they're doing, because it is all in the effort of promoting our future and having a cleaner, healthier future. And so we are definitely planning on partnering. We have already begun the partnership with the school district and making sure that information gets out there, as widespread as possible, and utilizing some partnerships to do that, since we can't be everywhere at once, but making sure that the message gets out through several different channels.
Council, I just want to add, we also have the Green Schools Initiative that's ran through our department, where we actually give grants to schools who volunteer and participate in environmental programs to increase recycling and other sustainability efforts around the city. Each year, we've given schools a maximum of about $2,500 per school and nearly $500,000 since the program has started. So I think we're going to continue those efforts to incentivize young people to get involved with environmental sustainability, recycling at their schools to promote those type of messages.
That's great, and hopefully we'll get the schools to all recycle, and that would be wonderful. So, but again, being the chair of Streets and Services, we always appreciate working with the Streets Department and how motivated you guys are, responsive, and always willing to work with our constituents to do the best you can to get the job done, and it doesn't go unnoticed and very much appreciated. So thank you for your staff and for all that you do, and looking forward to continue to working with you to make this a better system, and hopefully it could be a model for other municipalities to copy once we get it down. So thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, is there anybody else here to testify on this resolution? Number 190114.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your willingness to testify. We do have your written testimony for the record. If you can be concise as you testify, it would be appreciated. Just state your name for the record and continue. Thank you.
Jessica Beltware. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to testify today to City Council. My name is Jessica Beltware. I'm the Conservation Associate with Penn Environment, a statewide citizen-based environmental advocacy group. On behalf of Penn Environment and Philadelphians, I'm testifying to express our disappointment with the city's current policy of sending a significant portion of Philadelphia's curbside recyclables to incinerators to be burned instead of actually recycling them as intended by city residents. This shocking, short-sighted decision is disheartening, even while we recognize the city is changing to value-based contracts and is continuing to look for a permanent long-term contract. This temporary decision moves our recycling in the wrong direction. It's critical we maintain the recycling advances we've made despite rising costs and lacking infrastructure, because it's the morally right decision for our environment. Every week, hundreds of thousands of Philadelphians diligently collect and sort through their plastic, glass, metal, paper, and cardboard to find those recyclable products. And citizens consciously put their blue bins on the curb, doing their part for the environment by keeping those materials out of landfills and incinerators or from littering our streets and neighborhoods. Recycling is a vital component to a healthy environment and necessary to achieve zero waste. It's time to move beyond a throwaway culture and improve ways to reduce, reuse, and recycle. The benefits of recycling have long been clear. Recycling keeps trash out of our landfills, which have been shown to leach toxic chemicals into our groundwater, consume nearby neighborhoods with pungent odors, and release methane, a potent greenhouse gas that is triggering climate change. Recycling keeps trash from being burned in incinerators, which are dirty, expensive, and release known toxins such as mercury, lead, nitrogen oxide, and other pollutants that pose a risk to our health. These health threats include higher incidences of cancer and respiratory systems, as well as other potential health effects like congenital abnormalities and hormonal defects. Recycling further reduces harmful climate change emissions. The process producing and disposing of goods is responsible for nearly 42% of all U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. Philadelphia City Council and the Zero Waste and Litter Department should immediately halt the practice of sending recyclables to incinerators and make it a top priority to ensure that curbside recyclables are actually getting recycled. Some of us have heard from the Streets Department that they've had to cut recycling because it's so expensive, that we're now losing money instead of making money. But the truth is that's missing the whole point. Cities started recycling decades ago, not for money, but because it was the right thing to do for our planet. We need that ethic to be driving our recycling programs once again. It feels like the city is talking out of both sides of its mouth when I hear this excuse, yet in the same breath, we talk about getting to zero waste by 2035. So which is it going to be? You may also hear that the city has no choice because they were stuck between a collapsing recycling market in China and the city's recycling contracts winding down. But the truth is that's just poor planning. The city had ample time to find a new contract before China's decision, and additionally had left the recycling director position vacant for 2 years. City officials have an opportunity to make Philadelphia a national leader in recycling. Just 2 years ago, the city boldly stated its goal of achieving zero waste by 2035. If Philadelphia is serious about this commitment, city officials should plan for financial fluctuations in the market and budget accordingly. The city can then implement other policy initiatives, including, number one, the city renewing its recycling contract as quickly as possible, and it's critical that we ensure that this contract is comprehensive for including as many recyclable materials as possible. Second, work to increase recycling rates while decreasing contamination. Single-stream recycling produces the highest rate of lost products at the processing stage, which is the highest contamination rates that average 25% of recyclable loads. Moving away from a single-stream system and back to a two-stream system would reduce contamination rates. And finally, improving public education and enforce proper recycling. The city should be unafraid to fine for littering, illegal dumping, and incorrectly recycling. These policies will increase recycling and reduce our contamination rates, which will in turn reduce our trash stream and help us protect our environment. We hope the city makes it a top priority to ensure that curbside recyclables are recycled and to fulfill its promise to make Philadelphia zero waste by 2035. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony and for your support to help fix our recycling and hopefully move forward to a cleaner waste disposal, not disposable, reusable and recyclable. Is there any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on bill number resolution number 190114? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the next bills.
Bill number 180944, an ordinance establishing a parking regulation on Taney Street, West Side, Brown Street to Aspen Street. And bill number 180945, an ordinance establishing a parking regulation on Marlborough Street, West Side, Wildey Street to Richmond Street. And bill number 180967, an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Brown Street and Broad Street, Russell Street and Germantown Avenue, Rush Street and Park Avenue. And bill number 181100, an ordinance establishing a parking regulation on Park Avenue, both sides, Dolphin Street to Susquehanna Avenue. And bill number 190084, an ordinance establishing a parking regulation in the vicinity of Marvine Street and Champlo Street, North 12th Street and Chew Avenue, Camac Street and Chew Avenue, North 12th Street and Champlo Street, North 9th Street and Ruscombe Street, North Marvine Street and Champlos Avenue.
Please proceed, Dion. We can speak your name and then proceed with your testimony.
Good day, Council. My name is Dion Braceley, Deputy Manager for the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Thank you for allowing me to testify before Council regarding ordinances 180944, 180945, 180967, 181100, and 190084, establishing parking regulations. The Philadelphia Parking Authority has no objection to the ordinances previously read before council and recommends favorable consideration. Thank you again for your time. I will be happy to respond to questions at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, is anyone else here to testify on bill number 180944, 180945, 180967, 181100, and 190084? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. McMonigle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 181061, an ordinance amending section 9-205 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sidewalk Sales, prohibiting vending on both sides of 56th Street between Haverford Avenue and Vine Street, 57th Street between Haverford Avenue and Vine Street, and Vine Street between 56th Street and 57th Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Please state your name and then proceed with testimony. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. My name is Sarah Kaiser, and I am the Legislative Affairs Manager for the Department of Licenses and Inspections. Today, I'm here to provide testimony on Bill number 181061, which, if enacted, will amend Section 9-205 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sidewalk Sales. The bill would prohibit vending on both sides of 56th Street between Haverford Avenue and Vine Street, both sides of 57th Street between Haverford Avenue and Vine Street, and both sides of Vine Street between 56th Street and 57th Street. The department has no objection to this bill and is prepared to enforce its provisions should it become law. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the department's testimony, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on bill number 181061? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. McMonigle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 181102, an ordinance establishing a no motorhome parking regulation on the 5300 block of Woodbine Avenue, both sides.
Thank you, Keisha. Please state your name and then proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Keisha Duckin, and I am a district traffic engineer for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on bill number 181102. Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. However, please note this sign is not a standard sign. It will be a special sign fabricated and installed by the city. The regulations will be posted on a trial basis within 30 days of the passage of this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilman Greeley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
We were talking here, are motorhomes generally, you can park them on the street unless there's a special regulation, or?
There is a provision that allows them for a short period of time.
Okay.
However, my understanding of this location is that this has been in place, this particular motorhome that's in question has been in place beyond that period. And the owner is not adhering to the existing no truck parking regulation at that location. Therefore, we're creating a custom sign for this location by request.
Okay. And is there, I mean, do motorhomes have particular tags, like when it's written up, do you know if that's?
I don't have that information
Okay.
offhand for you, but I can get that information to you.
All right. Okay. I was just wondering, because I didn't think normally you could park them anyway, but, you know.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
So right now, it's around 10 or 15 days, is that what it is?
Right, and my understanding is this one has been in place for several months.
Well, then why do we need a regulation since it's
I believe that the individual may have been fighting the truck tickets, and therefore we're actually putting a custom sign at this location. However, I'm here on behalf of another engineer, so to the best of my ability, that's my
Understood.
understanding of the location.
We don't ask any questions anyway. But thank you, Keisha.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on bill number 181102? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. McMonigle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190081, an ordinance establishing a one-way regulation on Cecil B. Moore Avenue from Front Street to 6th Street westbound.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Keisha Duckett, District Traffic Engineer for the Department of Streets. I am here today to offer testimony on bill number 190081. Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. This regulation was established on a trial basis on February 16, 2019. Thank you for the opportunity to appear, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, is anyone else here to testify on bill number 180081?
Seeing none, Mr. McGonigal, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190082, an ordinance establishing a one-way regulation on Montgomery Avenue from 2nd Street to Front Street eastbound.
Good morning again. I'm here, my name is Keisha Duckett, District Traffic Engineer for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 190082. The Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. This regulation was established on a trial basis as of February 16, 2019. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your very good short testimony. Is there any questions? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on 190082? Seeing none, thank you so much. For the record, I do want to note that bill number 190131 is being held by the call of the sponsor. Mr. McMonagle, would you please read the title of the next bill?
Bill number 190061, an ordinance authorizing Timothy Liddick, doing business as The Thirsty Soul, to install, own, and maintain an open-air sidewalk cafe at 1551 West Passyunk Avenue, Philadelphia, PA 19145, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. McMonagle. Chris, if you want to start with state your name for the record, proceed with your testimony, followed by Sarah.
Good morning, Chairman Squia and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Christopher Renfro, and I'm an engineering supervisor with the Department of Streets, here to testify on bill number 190061. This bill authorizes Timothy Lydiak, DBA The Thirsty Soul, to install, own, and maintain an open-air sidewalk cafe at 1551 West Passyunk Avenue under certain terms and conditions. The sidewalk cafe will be located along the 1551 West Passyunk Avenue building line on both the West Passyunk Avenue and South 16th Street property frontages. The Department of Streets is not opposed to this proposed sidewalk cafe encroachment, as the clear, passable sidewalk space to remain after installation meets the required complete streets walking zone minimum width. Thank you for your time. This concludes my testimony. I'm pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, good morning, Chairman Squilla and members of Streets and Services Committee. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on bill number 190061, introduced by Councilmember Johnson on January 31st, 2019. Bill number 190061 will permit an open-air sidewalk cafe encroachment at 1551 West Passyunk Avenue. The cafe will encroach onto the north footway of West Passyunk Avenue for approximately 13 feet, leave 13 feet of clear and unobstructed walking zone space. Additionally, the cafe will encroach into the east footway of South 16th Street for approximately 4 feet 6 inches, leave 7 feet 6 inches of clear and unobstructed walking zone space for pedestrians. These encroachments meet the minimum requirement of the complete street policy. Therefore, the Planning Commission at its meeting on February 19, 2019, recommended this bill for approval as an item in accord with previous policy. This concludes my testimony. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today and be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on 190061? Seeing none, Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the last bill.
Bill number 190161, an ordinance authorizing Michael Myers, doing business as Fill It Up Again, LLC, to install, own, and maintain an open-air sidewalk cafe at 436 East Girard Avenue, Philadelphia, PA 19125, all under certain terms and conditions.
Please proceed.
Good morning, Chairman Squia and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Christopher Renfro. I'm an engineering supervisor with the Department of Streets, here to offer testimony on bill number 190161. This bill authorizes Michael Myers, DBA Fill It Up Again, LLC, to install, own, and maintain an open-air sidewalk cafe at 436 East Girard Avenue in Philadelphia, PA 19125, all under certain terms and conditions. The sidewalk cafe will be located along the 436 East Girard Avenue building line on only the East Girard Avenue property frontage. The Department of Streets is not opposed to this proposed sidewalk cafe encroachment, as the 8 foot of clear passable sidewalk space to remain after installation meets the required complete streets walking zone minimum width. Thank you for your time. This concludes my testimony. Pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chairman Squilla and members of Streets and Services Committee. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on bill number 190161, introduced by Councilmember Squilla on March 7th, 2019. Bill number 190161 will permit an open-air sidewalk cafe encroachment at 436 East Girard Avenue. The cafe will encroach into the east footway of Girard Avenue for approximately 3 feet 10 inches along the building line, as well as another 3 feet inches along the curb line, leaving a minimum 8 feet clear and unobstructed walking zone space for pedestrians. This encroachment meets minimum requirements for the complete street policy. The Planning Commission has considered and approved this bill at its meeting yesterday. This concludes my testimony. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today, and be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on bill number 190161? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimonies. That will end our Streets and Services hearing. We will go into a public meeting. We will convene shortly. thank you all. We now resume our Streets and Services Committee.
We're just voting the bills.
For the record, I also would like to announce that Al Tautenberger is present. Councilman Greenlee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I move the adoption of the amendment to Bill number 190161.
Second.
All right, Bill number 190, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. The amendment to Bill number 190161 has been approved. Councilman Greenlee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the following bills be reported out as committee with favorable recommendation and that the rules of council be suspended to allow for first reading at our next session of council. Numbers 180944, 180945, 180967, 181100, 190084, 181061, 181002, 190081, 190082, 190061, and 190161 as amended.
Second.
All right, all bills read into the record have been moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All bills read into the record have been approved with the suspension of council to be read at next council session. That will end our committee hearing. Thank you for your participation.